how are you planning on schooling your child? Public? Private? Or maybe you haven't thought about it yet. Well, I'm here today to give you a little insight on how you should homeschooling. Now, when I say that, you might think I'm a little crazy, but from personal experience, I can tell you that homeschooling is the best way to educate your child, especially when partnered with dual enrollment in later years. Now, you might be thinking, why would I want to do that when I can just put them in the schooling system? Or I want my kid to be social and I don't want them to be stuck at home all day. I want them to have a good education. Also, what is dual enrollment? Well, here's where most people are ill-informed about homeschooling. Homeschooling isn't only limited to the parent. Unlike the name implies, there is a much bigger community that comes with homeschooling. There are group lessons that you and your kid can do with other parents that can help, and even classes that parents can take to help you along your journey. Public and private schooling is overrated and causes a lot of unneeded stress onto your child. The copious amounts of homework and crammed tests that schools put students through in 1 year is just outrageous. In a single week, they could be dealing with 3 tests, 2 quizzes, and a multitude of other homework for all their other classes. On top of that, if you're doing sports or music or any other extracurriculars, your kid might have to add this onto their agenda, which is already packed. And that just leads to so much overwhelming stress on your kid, which you obviously don't want for them. While this might sound far-fetched, I literally had to go through this in my schooling career, going to 7 classes a day and coming home with all this crammed information in my brain, expected to shove it back out onto 4 or 5 homework assignments a night. It was just so much. There was no need. Here is a chart on the homeschooling boom that has happened over the last couple of years. Look how high the numbers are in 2020. Why is this? Because people are realizing how much better homeschooling is for their kids. I couldn't find any charts for this year's stress levels for people that were transferring into the homeschooling, which was surprising. So I decided that I would just ask some of my old friends from my high school how they were doing moving into the more online centered and more at home life, schooling. And I just wanted to figure out why or how they were feeling about moving into a more homeschooling environment. So I said, hey, this is for a school project. What is your opinion on transferring into a more homeschool environment? Like, is it more stressful or more manageable? And Kate and Nick had pretty much the same thing to say. Now, I absolutely agree with their opinion, and I would say I follow the same thing. I think it's much more practical and manageable, and it really lets you focus more on your life and what you want to do. When transferring into homeschooling life, you're most likely unaware of how much control you really have. I transferred my junior year of high school, and I had way more control over what I could do even in that year. I was able to choose what classes I wanted, how I wanted to run them, and I could create my own schedule and even the assignments that I had to do in the class. Now, I'm not saying at all that you can just do nothing and pass. These classes have a number of tests and homework assignments that you do have to complete, but it is up to you to choose what kind of homework you have your kid do and how fun you can make the tests. For example, one of my homeschool classes was economics, and I had to read a book. And my last assignment was to calculate how much my tuition would be or my college experience based on my job and how much it would take for me to work to pay that or really create the life I wanted. And this was much better than what a normal schooling curriculum would do, where they just give you a 50-question test on pure memorization, and that really just helps nobody. Now, on the same note of creating your own schedule, this also means that you can set aside much more time to follow your passions and help your kid find out who they really are. I would set aside some time to do my art and follow through and try and find my style, and it really helped my art grow and find out what I wanted to do. Now, if hobbies aren't your kid's thing and they just have a lot of spare time, this also gives them time to find a job. Let them get their own money, and you get to see the biggest smile on their face when they get their first paycheck. And also, it just generally teaches them way more about the world than a normal schooling education would, just slapping a test on their desk. Let's get back on track a little bit and talk about the social aspect of homeschooling. Now, unlike most things, homeschooling is not inclusive or non-social at all. While the one-on-one with parent scenarios are very common, there are homeschooling sports teams, there are events that happen weekly in clubs, inside of this giant community of people. To make up for the loss of field trips that normal schooling environments would have, the homeschooling community houses events to replace these, so your child doesn't feel left out. Which, side note, you are not limited to the homeschooling community's field trips. You can take your kids anywhere, like to the aquarium if you are in, or to the zoo, just like for sciences. I mean, like, really, the possibilities are endless. It's completely up to you what you do, as long as you get the core stuff down to pass the credit. The homeschooling community not only makes up for these field trips that a normal public or private schooling would provide, but they exceed these expectations, and they host events almost every other week, which range from boys and girls study sessions, to campouts, to themed parties, to water parks, to fun activities that anyone can do, so you feel at home and in your community. The homeschooling communities aren't limited to the field trip schedules that normal schools are limited to, and they're not, trapped in this educational necessity, but more the experience and bonding scenarios that you really want your kid to be having on these outside experiences. For the most part, they're led by parents, and they're just team bonding exercises that usually have some sort of class-oriented topic mixed in. I can tell you very much from personal experience that your child will be welcomed and find a place to call home and really blossom and find themselves, like, guaranteed. Moving on to the next step in this process, we go on to applying for dual enrollment. This is just a great choice for your child, especially if they're wanting to go to college. It is simply just a massively missed opportunity if you don't do it. Now, for those who are looking to go to college, dual enrollment is really the only choice unless you don't want your kid to get into their dream college. Dual enrollment, for a fraction of the cost, will give you college-level classes early in your junior and senior year of high school. Now, what does this mean, really? This means that you will not only be getting high school credits, but college credits at the same time. This is huge. This means your child can skip the boring first 2 years of college. And if you play your cards right, yes, you heard me right, they can skip 2 years of college and go in as a junior. By getting the credits done early, you don't have to do them later, and now this does add to your workload a lot, as you are taking college-level classes. But this is why I say homeschooling is so important in this combination. With your set curriculums, you can bend your schedule to fit your newly added work for your dual enrollment to fit your lifestyle perfectly. Now, I'm not saying at all that this will be easy. Of course, there's a lot that comes with that, but these college classes mixed in much more flexibly. It's much more flexible with homeschooling, and it really provides you with the openness and freedom to make your child's major and really help them and guide them through their life while they're in this really mixed time, because it is really hard. The normal like public and private schools, they really just don't prepare you for what college is like. However, doing dual enrollment really gives your kid a peek at what college life will be like and the maturity it takes to be there. Depending on what college you get accepted to for your dual enrollment career, there are multiple options for classes that will fit with your major. Now, if the homeschooling community wasn't enough socializing for your kid, depending on which college you take your classes in will determine how personal or online they can really be. From personal experience, being able to go to my remote campus and take classes, then go and hang out with my friends, really just opened up a whole new freedom that I didn't even know I had. It made me really want that college life, and I'm sure it'll do the same thing for your kid later. Next, I want to go over the achievement that comes with dual enrollment. Not only will your kid feel personal achievement from doing college level classes early, but I'm sure that you as a parent will be ecstatic to see your child working towards their dreams. So if you take the right amount of classes, you can actually graduate high school with an associate's degree. Yes, an associate's degree. This is why even if your child isn't looking to go to college, this will set them apart from every other normal high school graduate. This really just throws a curveball into the system and gives your child a life they really want. Okay, now what are you going to do? Just throw your kid into the mix, or pitch them that curveball and watch them smack it over the fence?